All right, good morning, everyone. Robin Willoughby is running just a little bit late, but we do have a quorum. So I think we are able to proceed, and I know we have people online as well. We just waited a couple minutes for people to get in and a few more people to arrive here in person, but I think we can call the meeting to order now. And so let's just do a quick roll call of commissioners.
Okay, Director Brennan Kelly.
Present.
Director Designee Robin Woolery will be here shortly, and Amy Wittroba, Executive Director. Dr. Arun Kumar.
Present.
Jillian Baker.
Present.
Jeffrey Beefer.
Present.
Claire Dragovich. Present. John Hanlon.
Here.
Judge Art Hill.
Present.
Jody Hoos. Present. Chris Hughes.
Present.
Phil Kinsey. He is running a few minutes late, but will be here. Jeannie Ryhill.
Present.
Karen Tucker.
Present.
Harry Ward.
Present.
Okay, you do have quorum. Now I'll go through the individuals I see joining us via online. If you could just confirm and identify yourselves. I see Joanne Liu. Could you introduce yourself, please? Oh, Joanne Liu, can you hear me?
Yes, present. That's correct.
Could you just introduce yourself for the record, please?
Joanne Liu, Forensic Science Command, Illinois State Police.
Great, thank you. I see someone with the handle PD Jennifer Maples. Could you please introduce yourself for the minutes? Okay, well,
Jennifer Maples, are you there?
if you don't have sound, Ms. Maples, you can always put it in the chat as well. Oh. Ms. Maples? Okay, we'll follow up on that in the chat. Saber Jones?
Hi, good morning. I'm Saber Jones. I'm the Regional Toxicology Liaison that supports Illinois and the rest of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's Region 5.
Great, thank you. Illinois Police SEAL, I think, is Thompson.
Morning, John Thompson, State Police. I'm the legislative liaison.
Great, thank you. And then I see another icon, I think it's Timothy Tripp.
Good morning, Bureau Chief Timothy Tripp with the Forensic Sciences Command, Illinois State Police.
Great, thank you all for joining us.
All right, so we have a quorum
We do have a quorum.
in
and I will
person
put the
and
agenda up.
lots of people online. Very good. Any thoughts or concerns about the minutes from the last meeting in June? If there are, I'd entertain a motion to amend. If there aren't, I'd entertain a motion to adopt the minutes from the meeting on June 18th, 2024.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Second that motion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the minutes are adopted. Very good. Executive Director, I'm going to give us your summary.
I will. All right, so let me start first. Welcome, everyone. While every day we appreciate the work of our forensic scientists, I wanted to point out that this is National Forensic Science Week. So that provides us with an added opportunity to just, on behalf of the commission, take the opportunity to recognize all the forensic scientists that work so hard in Illinois and across the country, and thank them for their hard work. So we appreciate what you do every day. Thank you very much. And, okay. Outreach. So the Forensic Science Commission was featured on the LinkedIn page of the new National Association of Forensic Science Boards. They're doing a weekly spotlight, I think, where they're focusing on different commissions. So we were the spotlight on August 29th, and they provided a link to our quality reports that are issued annually. So I just thought we should recognize that. As the NAFSB is becoming more active, and they're working hard on their social media, and they're planning their upcoming convention, which I will talk about shortly. Next on outreach, I have upcoming events. So I will be attending on behalf of the commission, the NHTSA Stakeholder Toxicology Summit on September 24th, which is in Springfield. That is kind of I think it's a small group of different stakeholders in the criminal justice system to talk about issues related to toxicology and safe driving. So I will be attending that and will report back to the Public Policy Subcommittee on that as they continue to look at issues related to the DUI statute. Also, I will be presenting just a brief presentation at the Illinois State Police Division of Forensic Services Agency Symposium on October 29th. So it'll just be a brief informational presentation similar to the one I gave in Collinsville, just to introduce different groups to the commission to continue to try to get the word out there that we exist and what we do to work on our brand. And then also I will be attending the NAFSB, National Association of Forensic Science Boards Annual Conference on the 21st and 22nd in Albany, New York. That's the tentative agenda. Again, anyone who wants to join and or go this organization as commission members, you are qualified to do so. They have asked me to participate as part of the panel discussion on new boards, which will be a group of people from different boards throughout and commissions throughout the state at different levels. So some will be more established boards, some will be kind of in the middle, some will be new, to talk about, I think the focus is, we haven't had our first planning meeting yet, focus on what to do as a new board, because there are more states that are looking at creating boards. And then there are some boards that are very new, that the idea behind this organization is to provide national support for these state initiatives. So they consider us, by the way, to be an active commission. So in my engagement with them, we are one of the more active commissions that they currently, there are some commissions that have been around longer, obviously, but we are currently one of the more active ones. Website updates. So the informational video is almost done. So sorry, you're gonna have to hear my voice, did the voiceover, recorded the voiceover last week. So that is currently being put together and will go to the training and career subcommittee for final review. I expect it to be done within a few weeks. And then we'll get that up on the website. Very excited about that. The lab systems informational video is still being worked on, the content. I think we'll talk about that in the subcommittee reports and then later. And then same thing with the About Us commission information tab on the webpage. If you haven't sent me your bio, please do so. I will reach out to you individually if you haven't yet. I will probably also reach out to you all each individually to tweak some of the stuff with the bios. I'm thinking of maybe kind of presenting a little bit of a uniform kind of section. And then there's a few people we'll still get headshots from. So that's where we're at. Again, pushing our image out, getting information about who we are as a commission that is accessible to the public and transparent. Legal update. Smith versus Arizona, as you well, I sent you the email after it came down because it was right after our last meeting. Normally I would type up a summary for you, but since an organization already did one, I've provided you with the summary from the CFSO. And I think that that's a good resource for everyone. Also, I wanted to let you know that the CFSO is going to maintain this website with information about Smith v. Arizona. As you see, they're listing court cases as they get decided. So I believe they're going to be keeping track nationally of case law as it comes down. I track Illinois case law every day. I skim through the appellate and any Supreme Court decisions. So while I don't expect there to be any in the courts of review for a while on this issue, I will keep an eye out for those and update you as needed. We do in Illinois have some established Illinois Supreme Court case law on medical examiners, People versus Leach, and People versus Barner on DNA that decided on the testimonial issue. So I think we should be, I don't expect as much litigation as quickly as perhaps in some other states that are more impacted directly by this decision. So that is it for the executive directory summary.
All right, very good. Do you happen to know if there's been any forensic related legislation bouncing around at all? I haven't heard anything, and I don't know if John Thompson, Captain Thompson, who's on also, but I don't know, Amy, if you had heard Cause that's something, veto sessions coming up, spring sessions coming up. I haven't heard anything, but I don't know, maybe there's something we should be aware of as a commission.
So there was the bill that Senator Morrison did sponsor last session that had to do with clarifying the definition of Delta 9 THC, which we'll talk about in the discussion items.
Yeah.
Her office, they decided to back away from it, not prioritize it, I should say, last session. They did indicate to me that they might be willing to bring it back up in the fall veto session. If I had to guess, I would say it's more likely to come up in the next General Assembly because we've learned in the Public Policy Subcommittee from some toxicology stakeholders in the state, including our traffic safety resource prosecutor, that the impaired driving task force may be looking at some proposed legislation for the DUI statute as a whole. And so I would expect that if that happens, that the two might get woven together.
Okay.
Obviously, we'll keep an eye on fall veto session and keep our ears open. But my expectation would be most likely in the spring.
Okay, and I know maybe it's gonna be addressed in public policy later on, but I ain't heard much at all, so that's very, very good to know, that they're gonna bring that up again, so. And if you would, note that, Robin Woolery is now with us.
Yes, Ms. Willerly has now joined us.
Very
Welcome.
good.
Right.
All right, anybody have any, questions, thoughts, concerns for the executive director? All right, let's move on to subcommittee reports. First committee, quality system.
All right, the quality subcommittee met in August and we're continuing to work on a document explaining accreditation, a very brief kind of FAQ. And we expect to have a document ready for the commission to review at the next meeting in December.
All right. Anything else on that? Okay, very good. Training and career development.
Okay, this committee has met, subcommittee has met a few times during the last quarter. Our approved minutes have been posted online. The first project that we were working on is the informational video projects. So the first video we were working on is the introduction to the Illinois Forensic Science Commission. And then this is intended to help market our commission. The B-roll video was taken and the voiceover was recorded by Executive Director Wetruba. And then the subcommittee will review that final product, that finished product, hopefully in the next few months. The second video is the introduction to laboratory systems, and we're working on the content creation for that video right now. And the third video is that we were considering is the introduction to the sections in the laboratory systems. We will begin that content after the second video is finalized, but we've stopped the content creation because we've started discussing the item 4 in our discussion items, the strategic planning for educational programs for lawyers and judges. So that some of the second and third videos may take, the timeline may be impacted by that project, also coming to this subcommittee. Additional projects that we've talked about on this subcommittee is looking at projects that can assist current forensic scientists in Illinois. Supporting on support and education for forensic scientists. We've discussed an annual ethics training module to be utilized by all laboratories and some kind of formalized ethics training. And then some kind of support for current forensic scientists to stay current and maintain contacts within the larger forensic science community is another topic that we've started to discuss.
All right. Well, let me say thank you to that subcommittee for holding as many meetings as you've had and trying to talk through some of those issues before this meeting so we can keep the ball rolling. Just, broader, bigger picture. When I came into this job, when I was interviewed by my boss, the governor, before he was sworn in and was filling various positions in his cabinet. I didn't expect it to be a big topic, but of the hour I spent with him in that interview, more than half of it was forensics, discussing forensics. And he's a smart guy, well-informed guy, and certainly one of that is probably where the germ or the seed of an idea for a forensic sciences task force, followed by a permanent forensic sciences commission. Those conversations came from that. And certainly even at that early stage, the need for, training, not just internally for forensic scientists, but for all the consumers of forensic sciences, for prosecutors, public defenders, law enforcement, judges, others, to have a higher standard of, some more sophisticated training was there. And I know both directly and indirectly, we spoke about it in Forensic Science Task Force, and then we've discussed a variety of things since the commission's inception. So I think we're getting to the point where now we can really carve a path forward to do some things on this front in a substantive way. And I think, my sense of urgency, as I've told Amy, is that a lot of good things are going on in the commission. It's really becoming more robust. It's really, with the various nonconformity reports, weighing in on legislative issues, other things, that we all know here are important and substantively being looked at. But in terms of externally kind of showing to the community and to the world, like, hey, the commission's doing something that's here to help and here to provide some resources. I think the need to put out material that can be a basis for educating not just forensic scientists, but also the various consumer of forensics. I think that's, really important that we, that's where I think we can leave our mark, in sort of the public venue. Now, I understand there was some good discussion about, what's the best way to do that. And so, it does seem to make sense to me. I don't know what the rest of the committee thinks, but the idea of these videos being developed as, commission approved, neutral. It's not trial advocacy of one perspective or another. It's not, the defense firm, here's how you can take apart the prosecution's case. It's not the prosecution saying, here, I can prove this is the science. This is what the commission is. This is, maybe even some sort of educational video that's about forensics and where did it come from? Where did this whole vast field of science emerge from? What the commission's role is, and then each discipline, as you've described, each section explaining that to the public. This is what DNA is. This is what toxicology is. This is what drug chemistry is, et cetera, et cetera. I think those are all great topics, that could be building blocks, I think, for a more sophisticated level of training, maybe at the professional level. In a partnership potentially with U of I. My thought and my question to the committee is, even to the full commission, do we really have the subject matter expertise to produce videos that could, be used for education purposes? And would be partnering with U of I to do something like that, contracting with U of I or some type of intergovernmental agreement. So, I'm sure the videos are, I assume that's ISP that's helping put some of those together, or like, or who is it, CMS maybe, or?
So the commission, the informational video has been, yes, ISP PIO has helped me with that video. So, they came in and shot B-roll at the last meeting, and then I worked with them on the voiceover. So yeah, so when we, on agenda item 4, when we get into this, we can, talk like about the limitations of ISP, because obviously that's a consideration in what level of support ISP can provide the commission and where we might have to look elsewhere.
Yeah. Well, I will get into it more, but I just wanted to, again, thank the committee for having those meetings. And I think, well, everything is always urgent, but I think this is an area where we immediately show to the public that what the work that the commission is doing is substantive and matters and can be helpful. So, anything else on that subcommittee? And I'm sure we'll talk about it more on issues for discussion. All right, public policy.
Good morning.
Morning.
So the Public Policy Subcommittee has met a number of times, including most recently in July and August, with the consistent topic being the 2-hour window for collection on the issue of DUI cannabis. The 2-hour window has been our most frequent topic. We've had a number of, thankfully, we've had a number of wonderful guests and speakers, including Saber Jones, including Lindsay.
Gibson. Gibson?
Okay. Okay, Gibson?
Gibson.
Gibson, okay, and who have informed us, along with at least 2 prosecutors over the last 6 months or so. We've taken in a lot of information and so-called evidence. I think it's fair to say that the bottom line consensus of the subcommittee is that right now, there is no scientific basis, scientific information that's been brought to our attention that would warrant a recommendation to change the 2-hour window for some, quote, policy reasons, pro law enforcement suggestions, but nothing from a scientific basis that would warrant us making that kind of recommendation or supporting any such legislation at this point. The next area then that okay, that's the consensus so far. So then the question becomes writing that up in some form, such that we can post it, post the work, to reflect the work and to reflect the position of the subcommittee and presumably the entire commission. And our next meeting, I assume, we'll discuss how we're going to draft that and where we put it. The bottom line right now, we are not prepared to indicate any recommendation for changing the 2-hour window.
When we started preliminary discussions, and feel free to, any members to jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, on that document and what that might look like, since the commission isn't limited to just recommendations or best practice documents. And we discussed maybe something that kind of provided the status of the current literature and the studies, that would be more of a resource document. Like, this is the current status. We're mindful of tailoring it toward the charge that was left to the commission by the DUI Cannabis Task Force. So kind of taking that charge and continuing it on and being responsive to that to fulfill the commission's obligation there. So it would, but right now, at least what we've kind of framed out, it's looking like it will be the status of the science and where we're at in a scientific community on the issue of collection time as correlated to cannabis impairment. Does that sound fair? Okay, from a non-scientist trying to explain it.
So are you suggesting some sort of one pager or a document that's a resource that says this is the state of affairs at the moment?
I think that's kind of what we talked about. It might have to be more than one page depending on, or a lot of footnotes with the citations, because we want to be able to provide anyone who accesses it with the places to go. I know other commissions, including Texas, have put out just kind of like statements on particular issues that serve as a resource. So I think that's kind of what we had in mind, with like an introduction explaining what the commission had looked at, or what the commission looked at, what they were charged with looking at, what the evidence they heard, and then here's the resources. And that could then be, if it's posted to the website, similar to what we have later on the agenda, could then be a resource for people looking at legislation or other things, maybe it comes spring legislative session.
Okay. In terms of moving forward, do you think we should just hold off on issues for discussion, or do you, I mean, is there a motion in the sense for us to have the executive director put in, articulate that in some type of, document for us to approve?
I think the plan was that we would work on it between now and the next subcommittee meeting, have it for the full commission to review prior to December, and then put it as an agenda item and have it voted on whether or not they approve of the statement and want to post it on the website. That was the path that we were thinking.
You don't need any further direction than that.
I don't believe unless I think
Anybody have any objection to that? Any concerns about that path?
No objections here.
Okay. Cool, great. All right. Anything else from public policy? Great. Technology.
Yes, sir. Good day, everyone. We last had a discussion group session, held last month, which was designed for strategies of moving forward. Last reported, we had finished up our phase 2 of emerging technologies for the technology subcommittee. And distilling down information we gathered from the different core disciplines, what we're doing now is I'm working on drafting a final summary of the various disciplines that are poised to address emerging technologies, whether it's additional research on these technologies or implementation. Those core disciplines are toxicology, trace chemistry, and firearms and tool marks. In the summary report, it'll give an idea of exactly which technologies they're looking to further research or have gathered enough information to move forward towards implementation. That will be part of the focus of the summary report to supplement phase 2 of emerging technologies. Also, we had discussions regarding strategies of moving forward with 2 broad-based topics. One in which at the formation of the technology subcommittee, we had discussed to put it on our agenda to look at the different LIMS systems that each agency is currently employing to see a comparison, a contrast. And finally, at our last meeting, it was suggested that we look into AI and machine learning. We've started through vetting processes of what articles may be out there regarding this. I've received an article and a training opportunity that needs to be vetted along the lines of AI as it's related to forensics. Also, we want to take advantage of the upcoming NAFSB meeting in 2024 November, in which they actually have AI and forensics on their agenda. So we want to partner with that information, see what we can glean from there and progress towards vetting AI and forensics for the technology subcommittee. Yes.
One of the things I thought I was thinking about for technology for your group, you mentioned firearms. Once we get past the point of explaining what the technology is and really doing the overview of the educational piece, one of the things that you guys might want to look at is starting to break out different technology in each of the disciplines that you want to look at. And if you're looking at firearms, the NTVIC, that group, was it National Training? Anyway, it's a scientific group, based group, that has a subcommittee for 3D firearms, and I think Bill is on that committee. You might want to invite Bill to be on the subcommittee, and if you all decide to start breaking out and looking at different types of technology, that might be one place to start. DNA always has a huge focus, but if I noticed that you had firearms in that topic.
Yes.
That might be one. I'm not sure, if, you guys are starting, Phil, have you guys started looking at 3D?
We're ready to purchase one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Then that might be something that would be relevant to
Yes.
the committee.
So to the point, in the summary report that's drafted thus far, the virtual comparison microscopy is on the summary report that's being vetted by the firearms subject matter experts.
Okay.
Those 2 are represented by our Commissioner Karen Tucker and ISP forensic scientist Brian Tomac. They have provided a lot of information regarding this. So we're on the same page there. We actually have vetted this and they have provided a lot of information already, which is, of course, the resources the ISP is providing. This is for the subcommittee to take advantage of, to spread that information to other agencies as well. Yeah, so thanks for the resource. We'll keep that in mind.
Can you explain for us, dum-dums sitting at the table, what exactly, how AI is being used in terms of the firearms? That application that you're talking about? Can someone explain to me?
Well, the application I was speaking of, and Karen, you might be able to discuss the 3D, it's not the AI.
Okay.
This is a different type of
Okay,
microscopy.
okay.
So there's a scanning system that allows you to take a 3D topographical image. And then you can use a 3D software to review that image as an examiner still. So there's not an AI component in there, but some of the software systems are having a AI component where they have an algorithm scoring.
Sure.
And where they're triaging those cases or possible links together.
Right.
So it's still human can do it, and there's some computer AI software that's going on.
Right.
The ultimate goal of this 3D technology is to provide a statistical confidence number, a likelihood ratio, along with the examiner opinion.
Okay,
So that would be a big step for our field.
sure.
And that would be that there would be some AI doing that statistical
Sure.
comparison.
I mean, it's really
likelihood
just
ratio.
machine, it's essentially almost like a license plate reader. It looks at letters and numbers on the back of a license plate all over the state of Illinois. And it's not a human, but it is it's looking at shapes and sizes and figures and then, using its various AI algorithms to determine if these are close in terms of matching, right? I mean, isn't that good?
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
And one of the big issues in court, if I'm correct, that we run into in firearms is being able to provide some type of statistical number
Error rate.
on, error rate and things like that.
Correct.
This would help there, right?
Correct. One of our big challenges is not having an error rate, and then it's still subjective. Our field is still subjective. So this would be a subjective opinion still, but then having a likelihood ratio against a ground truth database. And the field collectively is working on that ground truth database still.
Right. Good. So as we're vetting, for example, we're doing a ramp up towards the AI to see, because this covers all disciplines, especially when it's coming to software related algorithms, things that are called macros. Those are things that are embedded in the software that may accompany the technology is one focus. But in each interval that we've done thus far, as just a very shallow look at it, there's the AI aspect and there's the forensic scientist decision-making aspect through either data acquisition or data analysis. When you look at those two categories, it's going to fall in those categories under the umbrella of AI or machine learning. So we have to do different vetting for different disciplines because the different applications, of course, will come with different software, different technology. Karen astutely explained where we're at with the 3D or firearms, for example. That's kind of the template you can expect for most of the disciplines.
Can I ask this committee, the technology committee, at some point to discuss if you think this commission needs to recommend a sort of forensic best practice when it comes to the use of AI, in a sense that there needs to be a human, oversight, human check and balance throughout each of these, various stages in which AI is used. I think there's some models in the world of technology and your maybe chief information officers and perhaps maybe the other commissions and boards around the country as you go to these national conferences and communicate, what are the guidelines, and should this commission consider weighing in on that? It's like, hey, AI is coming, we're using it, we're already using it today. But anytime you're looking at procuring a certain type of software or implementing a certain new procedure or technique or, developing some standards, there needs to be some, this is the standard that we can have to say to the public, some confidence in what AI is, doing. Because I can imagine there's the potential for concerns about those systems being used, wrongly, or they're just not working correctly. And then how do we just make sure, hey, there's always going to be a human check and balance. It's like we do with LPRs, or we do with Fusus, the video system, or, anything, any type of technology. There needs to be a human check on it, but I don't know that we've said that in some sort of policy that has the consensus and wisdom of a group like this to say, hey, this is, you know, the way we should all move forward into this pulled new world.
Can I just ask, so you're gonna be discussing AI or you have discussed?
No, we will be. That's a future topic.
So with the first thing you guys discussed, what is AI? So an article I just recently read, they said that the company that made Starlinks didn't consider their software AI, right? And so that was it, like, okay,
Yes.
so if I'm using an algorithm in a database to search a drug, compared to drug standards, it's not machine learning, it's already been programmed with the algorithm. So I guess that would be the first thing, right, would be to
Yes.
define what we consider
Yeah.
AI, and
Yes,
maybe a lot of what we're using isn't AI.
Correct.
Because it's static.
yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah, it has to be defined, and of course, that's gonna be one of the main goals of the subcommittee.
Thank you.
To make a clear line of delineation of what category does this fall in. We don't wanna make what current practices which are effective, definitely has a forensic science expert making those determinations to be categories as AI just by default. That's definitely what we wanna do, have a clear line of delineation. That would be like mission one. And thank you for bringing that up as an amplified point.
And one of the things with AI for a lot of our, non-forensic practitioners, is that the reason why it has a lot of value implications for forensics, it hasn't really taken off yet. And there's a lot of potential, but in actuality, we haven't actually really started really using it yet. It's because there's a lot of validation that goes along with it. So, you know, along with the human interaction portion, it's not like it's just gonna be tossed out without a lot of validation. So, you know, there definitely are going to be the checks and balances, with it, and it has to be in order for us to utilize it and to take it to court. I mean, no court is gonna accept us utilizing it without being able to show that it's been validated everywhere.
Yeah, very true.
Okay. Anything further on technology?
That's all I have for that.
Great. Forensic investigative genetic genealogy.
Okay, we met in July and August, and right now our goal is to continue to consult and invite experts, both kind of that have their finger on the pulse of either the national level of what's happening. So we had Matthew Gemmey come in August, and he was able to, he's affiliated in a leadership role at the NTVIC, which is both experts in kind of public labs and private sector labs thinking about and doing FIG. And he was able to speak to that. He's also in Idaho at the Idaho State Police, so he was able to speak as well to what is going on at his state. We also had the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification's FIG team come. Amy Smuts came to represent them. She's their like validation coordinator and has been working towards that. And so UNT is interesting because they're one of the first to have accreditation for two of the technologies that they're using around FIG. And then they're working on accreditation of their third and final, kind of the most complex one. And so Amy in particular was a great resource for us to walk through and understand kind of what the communication looks like with investigative agencies. That's one of the things that we see our subcommittee, as you were speaking to, being able to assist is trying to create resources for our states, agencies that are looking to do FIG and kind of helping them with a decision tree and the things to consider as you're moving forward. Prior to our state kind of having a formal or centralized place to do FIG in our public labs, providing our agencies that are ready to go now and maybe are considering working in the private sector with vendors, kind of what they might need to think through or ask. And so we're going to continue. We have identified 2 other potential public lab agencies that have FIG up and running that are kind of closer to us in the Midwest to see if we can invite them out for the next 2 subcommittee meetings. And then I think we'll try to kind of take a pause and discuss amongst ourselves and kind of see what else we kind of need to fill in terms of the knowledge gaps before we proceed.
Great. Do you have any Thoughts, concerns, questions about big? All right, well, thank you, subcommittees. All right, issues for discussion. So, the executive director, you want to kind of lead us through this?
Sure. So the first topic is related to asking the commission to take action on the posting of the recommendation you already made regarding Delta 9 THC and the DUI statute. The reason that I put this on the agenda is because at the time you made that recommendation, as you may recall, I was just up and running. I don't even think we had the logo yet. I know we didn't have letterhead. So the only way I was able to communicate and get that recommendation out was emails and like boots on the ground. That legislation, Senator Morrison's legislation, obviously didn't go through last session. So what I thought was to take the recommendation, excuse me, and it is verbatim from the email that went out to the different legislators on the cannabis subcommittee and Senator Morrison, and put it into a recommendation document that then could go up on the website, that then could be accessed as a resource or a citation for legislatures or agencies looking to support legislation, because the DUI statute, specifically cannabis, whatever aspects of it, is definitely going to come up again. It's just a matter of at what point. So that way, our website, the commission, becomes a resource as, hey, the voice of science has looked at this issue, examined it, and made this recommendation that clarification is needed with respect to, this is again, just the limited issue of the definition of Delta 9 THC. Yes.
This isn't anything on that issue. This is on our website. How do we get the legislator to know that they should, at least for the spring and going forward, to check our website, to look for recommendations? How do we get that information out there so that people know that we're here, I think we need to figure out how to advertise our existence.
Okay.
And, putting things out on our website is great, but if no one knows to look there for it, then you're a quiet voice.
Right, so other than, I don't know if this would be a blurring of the lines, but the commission is housed within ISP. So ISP has a legislative unit. I don't know if I could work in tandem with them and somehow I push it out, but with their obviously resources, because I'm sure they have their contacts and protocols for how to get things out there. We could do that. Maybe Carrie has some other recommendations other than, again, me going to presentations or conferences and saying, hey, we exist.
Right, the other thing I could think of, I agree with using sort of the channels with ISP, but the other thing I think we could do is do outreach to the speaker's office, to Speaker Welch's office, and to Senate President Harmon's office and their staff, to sort of let them know, because they be the point people for each of their sort of respective houses.
Okay.
And let those folks know. And then I think what we could look at is what are the specific committees, within the General Assembly that might have the most sort of relationship to the kinds of issues that we'd be looking at, and then reach out to staff of those committees. I think at least that would put that in front of the people that would have the most direct, line to be thinking like, who should we consult? Whose opinion should we look to for that kind of information? I think that would be helpful. Beyond that, I think it's sort of examining what kinds of legislation is already, sort of being proposed, thinking through which ones seem like they have a relationship to the work we're doing, and then directing those folks to the website.
Okay.
I think, again, ISP, we're obligated to provide support to the commission administratively, that's what the statute says. And so I think we can certainly have our legislative folks bring to the attention of whatever committee chairs, as well as the leadership of the House and Senate. I think you might want to do it on a bipartisan basis too. You probably want to let the minority leader in the House and then the minority leader in the Senate also know whatever it is we're, communicating to President Harmon and Speaker Welch. And I think just, simple correspondence, almost like anytime we promulgate something, like a recommendation, maybe just a simple letter that just says, please be advised that on such and such date, we post it on our website, a recommendation regarding yada, yada, yada. keep it as simple as that, almost like a notice, you know, you're putting them on notice, just send them a notice. And then we can make sure that, you can communicate with Captain Thompson and he can just bring that to attention. Hey, you may have gotten a letter emailed to you or a letter mailed to you, leadership and staffers, that whoever portfolio staff, you know, they have is assigned to that. And that's probably, you know, the most appropriate, normal way, I think, you know, we're a government created body to communicate with the legislature in a consistent way. I don't send in a letter to every member of the House and the Senate. I guess you could do that, but you know, okay. But sending it to the relevant leadership and then the leadership of the committees, you know, that are, have oversight over it, that seems to make sense. Both the chair and then the minority spokesperson of each committee, that seems like a professional way to do it.
So then if the commission is okay with me, then, you know, reaching out to ISP legislative and working, obviously I would draft anything on behalf of you. It is consistent with my kind of job description is, and I would obviously, that I'm the spokesperson for you guys, with the legislature. So obviously would act within the scope of your recommendation, but as far as crafting whatever kind of introduction letter, you guys are fine with me doing that, and working with legislative, then ISP legislative, I will work on that. And it'll be great too, the TAC summit is next week, so I can even take hard copies. You know, have them, I don't know who all is gonna be there. I know it's a small group, so I'm expecting it to probably be higher level representatives from different organizations, so I can certainly spread the word there too, and then I'll work on pushing stuff out to the legislature. It's a great idea.
And yeah, we won't be, the ISP won't lobby one
Of
way or
course
the
not,
other.
no.
We'll just be simply making introductions, you know, to the appropriate, you know, leadership on behalf of the commission, so.
Yeah, of course not. So then I guess, what we would need as far as the question of posting this is just a motion, from a commission member, if you guys want this posted, a motion to approve posting of the recommendation, acceptance of the recommendation and posting.
I'm happy to make that recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
All right.
All in favor? Oh, yes, I'm
One
sorry.
small suggestion
Yes.
for consistency's sake. The title includes Delta 9 with the numeric 9.
Okay.
And then the second paragraph, it says Delta 9 spelled out.
Okay,
Small thing.
small change, I'll make.
Most recognize it as Delta 9 numeric tetrahydrocannabinol.
Okay, I will make, so then with the motion with, I'll change anytime I spell out 9, I will put the number 9 instead. So with that slight amendment, you still have the same motion?
I do.
Okay, you still second it? Okay,
All right.
all in favor?
Uh,
Any opposed or abstentions? All right, that motion passes.
Great.
Okay, now we come to the proposed changes to the bylaws. So as we explained, we've already done one change to the, did that not change on the big screen?
Locked up on you?
Let me try, I'm sharing it from the. Now it's, I'm starting to. Stand by, sorry, technical difficulties. Well, we can start talking about them, because I think I gave you guys, I gave the commission members hard copies. Hopefully this will pop up soon for the purposes of the WebEx. We have made, I think, one change to the bylaws since I've been on board. There were a few things that led me to dive into the bylaws. Again, there's the next item on the top, on the agenda, which is the idea of, changing chairpersons. There were also just some other topics, specifically clarification on, issues of quorum and voting that led me to start diving into suggesting that we start beefing up the bylaws. So I did a bunch of research and reading of other organizations' bylaws. Obviously, everyone is different. No one is like us. I really wish that my slides would show up because I made slides that focus on the different areas. So I will just do it verbally. So the first topic, so all the proposed changes are in red on your document. So the first topic that I sought to address with the proposed additions is the topic of Open Meetings Act, voting and quorum. So there we go. Oh, I'm such an hour behind again. We'll get to that one eventually. So open meetings, voting and quorum, here we go. So, my concerns here or what led me to propose changes here were, to make clear who votes. So we have director designee, so I thought that needed to be clarified. Also, I'm the executive director, but I don't vote. So in different organizations that had executive directors that were not part of the body, that was a non-voting member, I thought that should be clarified. Also for purposes and for subcommittees, since some subcommittees have more people that tend to join in, when focusing on a particular topic as invited guests, and are very robust, that we wanted to make sure that for purposes of quorum and voting, that it's clear that it's the commission members that are involved with the subcommittee that we need for quorum. Otherwise, we're gonna end up in a situation, especially when we're deep into a topic where you might need 10 people present in a subcommittee meeting to have quorum and you can't get anything done. So that was another reason behind, those proposed changes. The next, and this will be an agenda item, it'll probably take a minute to pop up, was the issue of a succession plan for chairpersons, is what I will call it. Is that fair? After you brought up at the last meeting, sounds not like a TV show on HBO or whatever. So succession plan for chairpersons. The statute, the enabling statute for the commission actually says that the chairperson is selected by the governor. So, until and if, and I don't know if we ever will want to make a recommendation that be changed, I tried to think of a way in which we could make a recommendation to the governor to then have the governor change the chairperson and go through that formal process. I kept the language very loose. I didn't prescribe any type of procedures or anything like that because I thought that's something we could talk about in discussion. I just wanted to create a mechanism by which this commission could make a recommendation to the governor to change the chairperson. Recognizing, and we'll get into this in the discussion section, that may look a little different because we're coming up at the end of the calendar year for this year as it would in subsequent years. I just thought as of now, I didn't see any other way around a recommendation because the statute is clear that the governor, you guys can't elect a new chairperson.
Right.
So are there any questions on that topic? And that is a separate the next discussion item for, as far as procedures.
I
Oh, yes.
thought on that.
Yes.
I like the nomination process for the governor's appointment. I'm assuming the governor has a lot of spots that he has to fill and makes a lot of appointments.
Indeed.
So I'm wondering if it would make more sense if we select the chair and vice chair so that he only has to do that every 2 years, or she in the future, maybe whoever, maybe, so that the governor would be appointing the chair and vice chair, that in the second year, the vice chair would just automatically become the chair.
So the vice
The governor
chair,
appointment then is only having to be made every other 2 years.
you can select, so according to the statute, the only one that is prescribed by the governor is the chair. So you could choose a vice chair and that you could do without, that doesn't need any governor approval. But as far as the succession that the vice chair becomes
Right.
that would be, yes.
So in other words, you would submit each time to the governor, you would submit 2 names. Here's the chair, here's our vice chair, who's then going to be the next chair. So that the governor only has to make an appointment once every 2 years instead of every year. I mean, just a thought.
Makes sense.
I think you'd have to change the statute.
Okay.
You'd have to legislate it just the way it's written, but I think we can in our practice, let's say, like, it makes sense, who's the vice chair, it could be the person that's gonna be recommended to the governor to be the chair. I think that makes sense.
Okay.
But I think as it's written, the governor has no authority to appoint a vice chair. He only has authority to appoint a chair. So you couldn't really give him the option of, only every 2 years, just the way it's written, it's the way it's written. We didn't conceive of that, but what you're saying is a better way to do it. Sure. But that's not the way we wrote it, whatever. So if it's the consensus of the group that, hey, we want this person to be the vice chair, because this is the person we think is, that we'd ultimately want to recommend to the governor to be the chair. But also keep in mind, it may be very possible whoever the vice chair is, the governor says, no, I want somebody else. I mean, that's the governor's prerogative. And I will say that another thing in terms of the timeline, I think this is the right way. It's written correctly. It's the right way to do it. Will it actually play out in that timeline? No. Knowing how long executive appointments take and the vetting process. The good thing is it comes from people that have already been vetted, but even then, I mean, I'm the director of state police, but I serve on the hate crimes commission. I'm a hate crimes commissioner. The vetting process has to be all over again. I don't even want to do it. They made me do it. But it still took forever to go through that. Okay, now you're reappointed again to the hate crimes commission. Great. I just want to say, the timeline, I think is right. We should put in writing what the theoretical way is that it should work. Just know that the political process and the machinations at that level takes, so long that it may, the language you had that says the chair shall act until, they're otherwise replaced, that we can, the gears will keep moving forward, even though it may take some time.
So that's why I thought, and again, this was a possible workaround, that last paragraph about the chairperson, the last sentence, with the consent of the chairperson, you could designate a vice chairperson who may act in the chairperson's stead until the new designation. That would provide the opportunity to select your vice chair, to select someone as a vice chairperson, recommend them as chairperson, and then if the current chairperson wanted to say, okay, I'm gonna step aside and just be a regular commission member, vice chairperson, you act as chair until the governor, until 6 months later when it gets approved, you have that mechanism. So that, you're not completely at the mercy of the timing. And again, I know we may not line up calendar year for this particular year, so that's always flexible, but, and as far as how we select, I thought we discussed that as a separate discussion item. But I wanted to get going on that at least so that we could start contemplating how to move forward.
I think it's really good because I also think sometimes things change, even if you, in terms of succession planning, had a vice chair in mind and that person thought they would be interested in being the chair and something changes along the way, this still gives the commission the authority to have somebody else be the vice chair that might act in the stead of the chair. So I think it's a really good way to sort of move it up to the point where the governor's.
Good point.
Is this a yearly thing or?
The way it's written would be that, I didn't put anything in there about, again, I didn't want to get specifics. I thought that was something we could talk about as a commission. Could make I have it as the recommendation is made annually, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it would have to be a different person. And I didn't want to prescribe, I wanted you guys to think about, and we don't even have to decide it all at this meeting. Should there be a term limit, like a chairperson can serve, 2 years or 3, but no more than 2 consecutive, years or something like that. That I kind of figured would be something that the commission should discuss along with the voting procedures.
Because I know we have a National Association of Medical Examiners and it is currently yearly and, a year goes by really quick.
Really bad.
It takes 3 months to even think of what you want to do and then you just got 3 months and you have to step down. So there isn't the time. So
what if we, to your point, what if we amended to say before the end of each even calendar year?
Yeah.
And that way it gives, it is true, I suppose you're gonna learn it if you're the vice chair, but you may not be the person who else becomes the chair. People come and go,
I think doing that's good. But I also think it's good to leave it at each calendar year if you don't have a term limit that says it has to be annual. Because I agree with what you're saying, that I think a year goes by fast. And I also think there's value in sometimes having the same person continue a second year or even a third. I don't think they should serve indefinitely, but I think there's value in, you know, even if it was affirming, like, you know, if we were doing it every year and there was consensus on
Yeah.
having the same person continue another year, it does just give you that pause to say, is this going the way we intended? for
That's a
it?"
good point, Gary. There's no term limit, so
Right.
I guess maybe it's fine. the way it is.
I'll make it, what if I change third paragraph, before the end of each calendar year, the commission member shall, what if I make that a may? And then that gives you, if you're in a situation where you have, if the consensus is that whoever the chairperson is gonna go for another year, if it's the same person, in theory, you don't need to throw a recommendation to the governor's office.
Can the governor's office do a non-defined appointment where there's no ending stated?
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, well, okay.
Although, unless it's, well, these are,
Unless it's defined by statute,
Correct.
only, but yeah, I think every appointment is sort of like in perpetuity unless there's a specific term limit and the commission statute didn't.
the commission statute does not set a term limit on the chairperson.
Yeah, we would do that.
So, yeah, does the chairperson have to be listed as a commission member to be the chairperson?
I believe so.
Is that in there?
All it says is, I have the exact language, hang on.
Good question.
I mean, one would assume that the chairperson would have to be a commission member. But, you know, it is legislation.
a commission.
Because they could be on the board and then they're coming up, they're leaving, and then they become the chairperson and
Yes.
then they don't leave.
The governor shall designate one of the members of the commission
Okay.
to serve as the chair of the commission. So it
And
doesn't-
there's a term limit on commission members, though, right?
Yes, it's 4 years and you each are staggered based on your appointment date. If you Google, it's on the governor's website. If you just Google Illinois, Forensic Science Commission members, it'll show you what your technical dates are and what your out date is. Don't start carting it down like retirement. So it does have that, so it does show. So
Why don't we,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, no, I was just gonna say, so that, we have to keep that in mind also, because there'll be people that will be coming up on their date in a couple of years,
I think the earliest
would be
is early 2026.
six, right?
Yes.
Everybody was, the original
They were
number
kind of-
started in 22.
Yes, so it's whenever, I think it's early 2026 is when the first appointments would start to be up for, their term to be up.
Right.
So, so what do you think? Should we make it May?
I think in the third paragraph, the commission, we could say that we shall do it every year, but we may do it to the, not, and may submit to the governor.
Got it.
Right.
Like it. I like that better. You're
It's a
right.
better combination.
Yes. And then we can just do one giant vote at the end with any of the amendments, but is everybody good with, we'll keep the calendar year and then we'll change it to May, the second shall to a May. All right, awesome. Letterhead and logo, since we have one now, I put it under, executive director, because there was no section addressing me. So in addition to saying I'm not a voting member, based on reviewing other agencies and entities' bylaws, I thought it was a good idea to expressly give me the authority to use the letterhead and the logo. It seems like a no-brainer, but, and then also to create a mechanism for me to give you I don't want to say give you the authority, but for other commission members to reach out to my office if you want to use the commission logo in some type of informational presentation, or anything like that. It just kind of makes it clear. And then this is one of the benefits of you having an attorney as your executive director, depending on what what you're presenting on or what you're requesting to use the logo for, then I can, let you know, okay, yeah, you're gonna need a disclaimer. I personally always use a disclaimer on every presentation I give, but again, that's because I'm a lawyer. So, so I added that to the executive director section. Are there any questions about that?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
So if I were going to do a presentation and talk about all the organizations I'm a member of, my presentation has nothing to do with the commission, do I still need to get approval for that? Or would it be just if I was going to talk about commission work or answer questions about commission?
I mean, I would suggest like you just at least give me a call, because I have the logos, like, so in order to get the file, the actual like easily put into your presentation one, I have them and they're different versions. But I mean, if it's just a, hey, commission, obviously, it would just be like, yes, go forth and logo. I mean, what do you think? I would think it's kind of hard to draw the fuzzy line, like.
That's fine, I just want clarification, so if I'm doing Citizens Police Academy about my lab and I happen to have like, and I happen to be on this, but I'm not gonna talk about it. Just want to be clear, the expectation is that I will.
Just reach out to me, let me know, and that'll be a nice way too, for me to keep track of where, you know, outreach, from an outreach standpoint, where everybody is reaching out, so that as we continue to try to push, you know, the commission out there, we might find that we're pushing out information in places we didn't know about. Yeah, and then obviously there would be, my advice for that would be no disclaimer required.
I'm thinking in terms of like a resume, if you're simply listing something you belong to versus talking about something that the commission does.
Yeah. But yeah, and I have 3 different versions of the logo too, so depending on your use of it, there's the, you know, the full kind of 3D one, there's a flat color one, and then there's a black and white one too. So depending on what your needs are, you know, we could always discuss that, so. Everybody, all right?
Yeah.
Moving on, we're cranking through these. Commission meetings. I thought it would be a good idea to create a mechanism by which you could call an additional meeting if you want to. Obviously, this could be done via WebEx. My initial thought process behind this was legislation, because your first quarter meeting falls in March, and a good chunk of what happens in Springfield happens after that meeting. And then your next meeting is not till June, which is after the session is ended. So especially, I think we learned, you know, with Senator Morrison's bill, obviously, you know, you might not have to have one, but if suddenly legislation pops up post-March meeting, and we think we need to talk about it because the commission wants to take a position on it, a mechanism to say, okay, we need to have a WebEx meeting to talk about this. And then I just has to comply with open meetings, so I put the notice out and everything like usual. Now, there may be other reasons too, as you continue to do other work, that you decide you want to have additional meetings, but that was what I thought was the most likely reason in the near future you'd want to have an additional meeting. So I tossed that in. Any questions on it? And then kind of circling back to the chairperson, a lot of the bylaws and that I reviewed of organizations had discussion of basically how to exit the commission if you want to exit before your term. So just basically giving notice to the chairperson or the executive director. Also, because many of your statutory appointments are dependent on certain things like your employment. Like, so for example, I'm going to use you, Dr. Rukumar, because you're the easiest. So it says coroner or medical examiner. If you decided that you wanted to go make a ton of money in private practice, even though you still have all your experience as a former ME, you would no longer technically meet those qualifications. So just kind of giving a duty to notify if there's a change of status, so that way we can do whatever needs to, just to make sure that the commission is always in compliance with the statute. Sound good? Okay. That was it on that topic. So at this point then, if there's no other discussion, then I would just need someone to make a motion to accept the bylaws with the noted amendments to the commission chairperson section.
Is there a motion?
So
Is there a second?
second.
I think for bylaws, we probably should take a roll call.
Roll call vote? Sure.
I think so.
We can do that. Good idea.
Yeah, but you know, we're gonna be governing the commission through these bylaws, and so it's, you know, we should probably just take a roll call.
Okay,
So,
I'll call the roll. Director Kelly.
yes.
Dr. Arun Kumar.
Yes.
Jill Baker.
Yes.
Jeffrey Buford.
Yes.
Claire Dragovich.
Yes.
John Hanlon.
Yes.
Judge Hill.
Yes.
Jody Hoos.
Yes.
Chris Hughes.
Yes.
Philip Kinsey.
Yes.
Jeannie Rightville.
Yes.
Karen Tucker.
Yes.
Carrie Ward.
Yes.
Passes unanimous.
All right, very good. And thank you, Amy. It's great to see this done, and we've put a lot of work into it, and looks very good, so thank you.
Thank you. And again, it will continue to evolve, I have no doubt. So the next discussion item is I put it as an action item, even though it's really not, but just to cover from OMA, to discuss the topic of making recommendations for the commission chairperson. And this is where I thought maybe we could just talk about, since it does say the end of the calendar year, but recognizing we may not be able to do that before the end of this calendar year, talking about how you wanted to go about that selection process. Some initial thoughts I had were the idea of nominating or someone else or self-nominating by contacting me. Then I could obviously, if it's not a self-nomination, but it's a nomination of someone else, I could reach out to that person to see if they're even interested. Because obviously we wouldn't want to put someone up for a vote if they're not interested. And then so there'd be a call for nominations, whether it's self or someone else. And then I could put together the names of the people that were either self-nominated or nominated. And then at your next meeting, you would take a vote. The one difficulty I saw with the timing is obviously the December meeting is a WebEx meeting. So you guys, I know you all get along very, very well. I wouldn't want to do anything to like mix that up or, and so I don't know if you prefer to vote in person where we could have paper ballots. And they could just be, I could pre-print them and you'd be checked off and anonymous, and then I count them up. The vote does have to be done in an open meeting. So it would be difficult to do that on the web platform, although there may be technology out there that would allow you to vote electronically.
There is.
There is?
There is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility then.
But there's a website for voting, and each member, we can give them access, and then they can vote, and then you would be the.
And it would be anonymous then at that point? Okay, so,
I think there may be a problem with doing anything anonymously.
okay,
I think we're all, members of a public body, so I don't think there's any authority to do something anonymous.
okay, I wasn't,
It's like open meetings, like.
sure.
We're all here, everything's on the record, so I think it would just have to be like an open discussion and we just have to take a vote. And if I may, just as the current chair, I brought this up, when was it, 6 months ago,
No, last meeting.
last meeting? Like, for a variety of reasons, I think it is, again, ISP provides administrative support, but I think for the independence of this commission, again, I've loved being the chair, and it's a great, institution. I think that we're gelling here. I think it's going to be a great legacy that will be left here. That's going to have some real substantive impact. But I think it is better, perhaps, to not have. Doesn't mean it can be somebody from ISP, but I think the director of the ISP at some point should, there should be someone else who acts as the chair to just reinforce the forensic nature of it rather than just the law enforcement nature of it. I mean, I know I oversee, the laboratory system, but I also oversee primarily, law enforcement functions. So, but to the extent it can be, I think that's why it's good that we're having this discussion and that we're doing this. The reality of it is that whenever is recommended, whoever the potential chair would be, since it has to be appointed by the governor, would go through the deputy governor's office and her support staff. They would then take it to the executive appointments, and then they would vet it, and all these appointments literally would go before JB. Like, he has a meeting once a week which ones, and usually it's all fine and vetted, and sometimes they'll say, no, I want a different option. And that is his right to do so. So that's how it will ultimately play out, no matter what we do in terms of rules, no matter what we do, because that's the statute and the power that's invested in that office. So to the extent that there's a way to do that in an open meeting setting as we are, for people just to communicate in some way, I'd be interested in doing it. It's also a possibility that we don't even have to have a consensus recommendation. There may be more than one person that is on the commission that wants to do it, and we simply submit that to, although we just voted to approve the way we did, but I'm just saying, it could happen.
the recommendation could be it's this person or this
Yeah,
person.
that's true.
I
Yeah,
don't see
that's
it.
true.
I mean-
Yeah, that's true. So, however, that wants to play out, I think that if people want to communicate to the executive director, they're interested in doing it. And then I think, it would just have to be put on, the agenda for the December meeting to discuss. And then if there's, people that are interested, or if we have a single person that the commission thinks that would be the best option, or if there's multiple, then we would happily communicate that to, the governor's office, so they're just aware, these are what the options
That
are.
was gonna be my next question.
Yeah.
I assume that ISP would provide with the administrative
Yeah.
support because I don't have the governor's office on speed dial.
And it is understood, and it is a specific process, I mean, you've been through it, all of us have been through it in different ways. That you have to submit the information at the site, and those folks in executive appointments will go right to the deputy governor and say, this is your portfolio, Deputy Governor Scudder, what do you recommend? And then she'll call me, hey, what are we doing? So then I'll have me explain what the view of the commission is. So, maybe the best way is just sometime before the next meeting, communicate to the executive director if you're interested in being the chair. I suppose if there are nominations, you can also suggest that to the executive director. And she can just put it on the agenda, we'll have a discussion, and then we'll submit it up to the big boss.
Does that sound good to everyone? So we're saying self-nominations or nominate someone else. If you are nominating someone else, I will reach out to that person. If they don't self-nominate as well. And then prior to the next meeting, I will provide you with the names, and then it'll be an agenda item. And then we will do, I guess, a roll call vote, count and tally vote, on the WebEx. Does that sound amenable? And again, that doing it for this year doesn't mean that necessarily if we come up with some other way to do it next year, or we can always change as we go. And I guess to the point of the way we wrote it up, we could make the vote, have it be as recommendation for chairperson, and then also have that person be the vice chairperson.
Sure, yeah.
And that way, if it took a while.
We're waiting.
Right, because if that way, if you wanted to step away from chairperson, prior to next June,
Yeah.
then that new person, whoever you select, could start acting as chairperson, after the vote at the next meeting. Does that sound good,
Yes.
everyone? Okay.
And maybe something we could consider for subsequent years is having like the September meeting be the time
Yes.
where we do that.
That's what I was
thinking about it,
thinking.
because then that could be submitted, and if it took that time to change, still wouldn't happen until the beginning of the calendar.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that for later years, we do it, nominations between June and September, discuss and vote at the September meeting. Plus, it's just nicer to have the discussion in person than on WebEx. And then to the point, then we get it earlier, and there's a better chance that it would be approved. Yes, we're on the same
Well,
page, Hillary.
And once we get our legs underneath us, if we're doing a chair and a vice chair, so then, let's assume we're in 2025 and we have chair and vice chair. We would already know in 2026, so we could send it in January of for the following year, knowing that vice chair is then taking over, so.
Yeah.
I think once we
But
get,
that wouldn't necessarily be the case, right? Like, it could be that you have a chair and vice chair without the intent to change
Sure.
the next
Yeah.
year. Right, that, so it might still be, you want the same chair to continue after that, and the vice chair might still. be
either
vice
way,
chair.
we would know that
Yeah.
way in advance of September even. Yeah, we have to submit it in July, so with a better likelihood of that. In December, it actually is.
And once we see how long it takes the first time, then we can adjust the timeline accordingly too. Not that it's always the same, but we'll have a better idea of how long it takes.
I think we know, at least for the remainder of this governor's term, and I don't know if he's gonna run for reelection or not, but we know how the process goes, I think, in terms of the length of time. But, we gotta build a system that will outlast, individual office holders, and I think this sounds like a reasonable, way forward.
Right, so just to be clear, we're gonna have whoever we vote in to be the vice chairperson this first round. while we wait for the appointment. And then once that person transitions, then we'll appoint another vice chair? Or when are we gonna have, we'll be without a vice chair once that, if the first person we choose, we make them both vice chair and.
And the recommended
Right, we'll
chair.
have to vote at some point for the vice chair.
Yeah, we could, I mean, if you guys wanted to do that after, the vice chair is approved, if you want to vote in and have a chair and a vice chair, we can just do that at any meeting. So we could just decide, okay, we want to do a vice chair, let's put a vote on the agenda. And, because that's not at all limited by the statute.
Well, depending how many people are interested.
That's true
We could
too.
just do like a second vice chair.
Vice chair meeting.
No, I mean that,
Yeah.
that person then becomes vice chair. when
Well,
they can-
yeah, that's what I was,
Yeah.
I was asking, because do you want us to also make recommendations for vice chair, or we should just put out the chairperson, then we can just see how it
Well, I
goes?
think for this first one, what we're thinking of voting in December, you would select them as vice chair so that then under your bylaws, the current chair could basically hand over authority until the governor decides, but they would also be your recommendation to the governor.
Okay.
Just
And then
for
we'll
this first one.
Right, and then. once
And
we
then
begin, we'll be caught up.
subsequent years, it would be different.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you think?
Before I don't think we put on the record that Phil.
Oh, you're right.
Is
Thank you. Phil is here. He's been here for quite a while.
That's in the review.
Yes, very good.
Thank you. Thank you. I forgot to put that on the record. You are correct. So yes, Phil is here and he has been since about 10 minutes into the meeting.
Any further discussion on the 2025 commission chairperson process that we're coming up with? Okay, very good. All right, discussion and possible action on external forensic science training initiatives, forensics and law.
You want to start or you want me to start?
Well, I think we kind of touched on it a little bit in subcommittees, you know, it sounds like, you know, the subcommittee did a good job of kind of vetting this, but in terms of coming up with an action plan to create these videos, these educational videos, which could then later be used as modules for more sophisticated training. Again, I think, you know, ISP, we make videos and we have OneNet and we do some stuff that's okay. But if we want these to be the basis for example, for the kids that are getting their bachelor or master's down at SIUE, you know, in forensics, you know, specifically, these are our future scientists. If Professor so-and-so says your reading assignment or your assignment this week is to watch these, you know, Forensic Science Commission videos, and then, you know, write a short little paper on what they said, I think partnering with some entity like U of I to create a, you know, it's just a higher quality educational video. That makes sense. And then those various videos could be the basis for maybe some, you know, in-person training that's more sophisticated for lawyers, judges, you know, law enforcement executive types, that sort of thing, that have a more role in terms of policy and consuming forensics as opposed to forensic sciences. That's just, you know, and how do you do that in the state of Illinois? You know, the University of Illinois, for example, is a public institution. This commission is a public institution. I think you would have an intergovernmental agreement, you know, that would spell out, delineate the control of the content. I know that's important to the subcommittee who actually owns these videos. I think, and just so I'm clear, I guess this is another important reason why we need to evolve in terms of who the chair is. When we met, it was, you know, I was there as yes, I'm the ISP director, but I was also there in terms of, you know, the commission and being as chair of the commission, not just as ISP director. ISP provides administrative support. We can provide subject matter expertise. But for the legitimacy of any type of educational effort, I think it's the commission's imprimatur that has to be on it, and the content needs to be approved by the commission. You know, that this is, you know, it doesn't have a public defender bias, it doesn't have a prosecutor bias, it's not law enforcement. And I think even some of that subject matter, in terms of those videos, needs to be debunked, forensic science. You know, there's things that have been called forensic science over the past 100 years that have been proven to be garbage, and even things that are legitimate disciplines, certain aspects of it have been debunked, and I think that needs to be part of the educational topic, but, I think a partnership and an IGA that spells out what the commission's authority is to approve content, and ISB can help facilitate, finding the subject matter experts, and can have experts from the other laboratory systems and other disciplines, weigh in on helping to develop that content. But I just think if we want to have it as the highest standard, I think that we all do. In terms of video quality, you can do better than we do. We do fine. We're doing little social media things, and some things like that are kind of slick. But in terms of this is what you want to see from a serious institution, I think partnering with the U of I, and maybe it's not necessarily the law school, but maybe it's a different school within U of I. Maybe the law school comes in later when we're talking about some more in-person training that can build upon those video modules. But that's just my thoughts, having contemplated this for 6 years now, what we might want to do.
I just wanted to suggest this would not be for content, but it's for creating videos that are around, like, how do you get the message across? How do they have all the research on, you talk for this person at a time, then you show a demonstration. So all of that in the high quality video we have, it's called the Center for Innovation in Teaching and Learning. And they are who does all of our internal online course recordings, but they also do like public guest lectures. They do all the MOOCs, like massive online learning things. So they're a great team. They're not linked to a particular college or department. It's a center on campus that explicitly is to help subject matter experts get their content out in a way that is for the targeted audience. And so they have like a whole setup, actually it's right across the street, green screen, setup and everything. And it's all digital, and you can sit there and you can review it. And I've worked with them on a handful of things, and they're fantastic to work with. They're really good and strategic around how to deliver that information in ways that are, depending on what your target audience is, whether it's students, or I think it would be different if it's students versus investigative agencies, depending on where we're going. But they could help with both of those.
So the law school would have access to this?
Yes,
well?
yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
One of the things, at the meeting in November, the, National Forensic Board meeting, I'm sure Arizona is gonna be there, and they have a forensic academy. So you might wanna hook up with whoever their rep is and talk about how they develop that, because I think most of it is online.
It's not, so I have a contact who actually was part of the original development of the Arizona Forensic Science Academy. So it was an outgrowth of their commission, and they created a separate board. It started in, I think, 2011, and it was mostly in person. They did a basics course, and then they did an advanced course. It was open to prosecutors and defense attorneys. The judges wanted no part of it. They wanted separate training, which makes sense. I think we expect probably the same would happen here. And then over the years it evolved, and they offered, a couple of different smaller courses. They offered some online options as that became more available for people, geographically, whatever made more sense for them. If they lived in the area where it was offered, they'd attend in person. And then post-COVID, they actually are just trying to get their basics course back on board for the first time this fall. But they're not having a ton of interest, and they're trying to figure out why. So I don't know if that's changed in the few weeks since I spoke to them. So that's kind of one model that I looked at when we were discussing, and this is where this clarifies something for the training and career development that we didn't know before. So what's being contemplated is not an IGA between ISP and U of I. It would be an IGA between the commission and U of I, should the commission decide that they want to collaborate on educational initiatives. Now, that being said, I don't think that would have to be decided today. But as background, after the meeting that the director and I had with the law professor about different types of programs and, an in-person program, a recorded module program that was on a set schedule for COEs, the Training and Career Development Committee came up with a third idea, which was creating recorded videos that address the core disciplines, just just the science, so very, very basic. Similar to what was presented to the judges, I think, at 26th and Cal, minus the law stuff at the end. So something that could be put out in some way, shape, or form. Again, we don't know if we have the capabilities to do it through ISP. That's where a university might come in, unless perhaps the commission could get a YouTube channel. Would be to put this video, like start maybe with 2 disciplines, and it would be out there and it would be open access, available. The commission would own the content, but it would be open access. So public defenders, defense attorneys, state's attorneys could view it anytime they wanted. College students, master's students, anyone who wanted to, interested for any reason, high school students, teachers could use it. It would also, that model would give the commission, this would largely fall on the training and career development subcommittee, would give them the ability to review the videos regularly. If something changes in the field that they believe means that the video content needed to be updated, they'd have the ability to do that. It would, and they'd maintain ownership. It would be from either a neutral commission or collaborative with the commission and the school or commission and all, the labs. However, I picture something like PBS. This is brought to you by, this training video brought to you by these entities. And then all the seals up there, since we have the cool logo. So that was kind of something that was talked about as possibly a first step in external education for other, for non-forensic scientists. So forensic scientists could look at these too, because for a number of reasons. One, it's a little bit lesser of a lift from a work standpoint as far as content creation and logistics. And also it could be a building block for later trainings. And then we talked a lot about, we don't know yet what the interest is going to be. And there was a lot of talk at the subcommittee meetings about which comes first, the chicken or the egg. Do you survey people and see what they want? Or do you create it and push it out when they don't, so the idea of almost maybe being able to do a pilot with maybe 1 or 2 modules, putting those out there, pushing those out, seeing how they're received, and then going on to the other core disciplines. It also would give the training and career development subcommittee the flexibility to prioritize the project on the timeline that works for them, because they have other projects in the hopper already too. Though this may subsume, those other videos may become not as necessary, but it would give them that flexibility. So that's just to kind of give you a little bit of background of, there's been some thank you so much to the members of that subcommittee, especially for always, but for the last few meetings over the last month and a half for the work that you've done.
If you all want to do surveys, we can add a question to the survey for, this is on the ISP side. ISP Forensics is doing a symposium. I mentioned it to you guys at one of the meetings this year. We have a symposium that is going to be done for senior executives at the end of October, and there'll be a survey there. If you're going to put a question about, not in place of starting the videos, but if you wanted to see what the interest is at that level, you could add that question to the survey.
And who would that survey be going to?
That will go to, so we're targeting heads of law enforcement agencies, state attorneys, judges, any exec level law enforcement or judicial people would be targeted for that. So it might be audience that you're, part of the audience you're looking for, to see how much interest there is at that level.
It is a chicken and the egg kind of quandary. But I also think that's why this commission exists. We have here sitting at this table, people from those fields, from those, various disciplines and, maybe not disciplines, but various, backgrounds of people that touch on the forensics world. I don't think we need a survey to confirm that lawyers of all types would take whatever CLE they can get wherever they can get. Because we have to do it, we have to do it every year. And so to the extent that those rudimentary, I don't know if rudimentary is the right word, but those rudimentary blocks of like, this is what toxicology is, you know, a half hour or 15-minute or even whatever chunk video, like just even explaining that. To the extent that could be a building block for, you know, more further education, I love the idea, put it on out in the world, put it on a commission's website, make it available to the public, make it available to anybody. And then, you know, use U of I or whoever to get credit, you know, CLE credit for that, to make sure it's accredited by the ARDC. I have no doubt that it will be consumed. I just don't, at least for the legal community, I don't think a big survey, I don't know, the lawyers sitting around the table, they'll consume that. Especially if it's free, or they're not being charged for CLE.
Well, so that would be, that's the initial videos would just be open access. They would not be CLE, because if you're, in order to get CLE, it has to be like at a certain time with a certain provider, and there are fees involved. But those videos could be used once and I was kind of referring to them as the fundamentals of forensic science. Once the modules were created, they could then, the commission had the ownership to do we're offering a CLE program on these 2 dates, virtual, and the U of I, presumably law school, is a CLE provider. So if they could, that's kind of like, would be like step 2, use the modules to push that out to lawyers for CLE. At least that's something we can talk about.
Set date.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, ARDC, we're probably
Yes.
way down the weeds, but they take videos that you click on and you watch a 15-minute video on X.
We
or
could
30
do that,
minute.
but I think the U of I would have to do it because we're not a CLE provider. So somebody has to manage it and submit it. So at least until we get to the point where maybe we become a CLE provider and we have a budget and we do that, like what's in having those on demand, maybe the U of I could do that. And that's a good idea. That's a good point. I forgot about those ARDC videos. So the law school, I would assume, you know, would know how to do that, or I can reach out to other, to the ARDC and say, how did you do this? So I'm guessing.
I mean, it's kind of down the road, but I do think that that's a good idea, and I think you're spot on. I mean, probably most civil attorneys who know nothing about this topic would be like, well, I'll take 15 minutes and DNA.
But I don't want to hog up the discussion, like.
And similarly, we have the American Board of Medical Legal Death Investigators. They need credible investigators, and it is very easy. They just need a list of the presenters and their CVs and how long it is. And the investigators, they watch the video, they can get the credit very easy. So, you know, if you're going down CLE, I think we could.
You know, there are fees involved. It's just a matter of who pays them, depending on if it's a CLE provider. But that that can all be worked out. But for the other members of especially
Yeah, I just want to reiterate some of the points that you made, Amy, and please step in if I say something incorrect, but just, as the committee discussed and as one of the members of the committee, one of the things that we're trying to focus on is getting our name out there as a commission and not taking on too much. So not to say that we wouldn't be interested in something like the training that was proposed and talked about as far as like on-site, set schedule, in person or whatnot. We're just trying to take a small bite to reach the broadest audience as we can, to lend some credibility to us as an organization to start with, because we do have other initiatives and focuses that we want to include in our activities, like focusing on the forensic scientists in the state as well. So just to kind of reiterate those points of where we're coming from as the subcommittee and our discussions that we had.
So if we were to, if I can suggest, if we were to partner with U of I's, what's it called, the Innovation?
Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning.
Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning. And you take these, make it modular is what I'm saying. Like you could take, you know, make these videos that could wind up having multiple purposes. This is a segment explaining this topic, this discipline, you know, whatever. That could then be used at some point as the foundation for something that would be CLE accredited.
Right.
You know, put it on the ARDC website or Supreme Court website. it's free, you know, you're not charged for it. They're trying to get more people to do CLE. It's not, you don't have to be charged for anything. And that'd be one path. That you take that same subject material, the stuff that's out there that's free, that you're using to get promote the name of the commission and establish the reputation of the commission, and it'd be used if needed for forensic scientist training as well. And for people that are at the underground level, they want to use this particular training. And then it can be modified in some way to be appropriate for medical, hours that you guys get. But I think the best way to make sure that we're, this forensic education building blocks are usable in multiple formats would be to partner with an entity that knows how to make proper educational material. And I don't think it's this commission's job to be movie producers or whatever, and to do that. I think this would just be, these are the things that need to be said about this topic. Are we all okay with this? And we're in Illinois State Police, we're perfectly happy to assign personnel to provide input on that. Provide our subject matter expertise, and I know everybody else would as well. And we can consult whatever else we need to, but really, it's people that do this professionally that I think it would make sense to partner with, knowing that that's our requisition. That's what our request is. Create these educational building blocks that can be used for any number of venues, and start there. And just, with the commission approving what the content is, this is what we all agree on. We're not going down a weird path here. We're not saying something that's wrong. We're not putting out bad science. Or we're not, pushing a perspective that's, one side or the other. But this is a universal understanding of this particular issue. But I don't think we have the capacity of the commission by ourselves to do it. I don't think the ISP has the expertise to make it be something that has a strong, that's gonna meet that standard. So, that's just, to me, it seems like the answers are kind of all what we're saying.
So no, who's gonna talk next? Go.
I was just gonna, with the timeline of spring of 2025, when I think about the IGA having to be created between the commission and U of I, and then even so we'd have a December meeting and then a March meeting. That would mean in March, we'd be needing to approve content for a spring symposium. And this timeline seems very tight for us.
Yeah, I think those were just, days when we were, aiming for we were talking about just the sort of the legal aspect for it. But if it's the, collective wisdom of the commission that we start with these fundamental building blocks that can then be later used for other purposes, then that timeline, I don't think necessarily means anything. I think we start with the building blocks.
So then would this project actually be, number 3 on the programming list, the intro to the sections?
It sounds like,
Kind of be
so,
the same thing, so.
As long as, I would agree with that, as long as number 3 is the pathway to the broader, uses, that will be used, over time for various purposes, whether it's medical, legal, whatever. People using it in the classroom and forensic science setting. If we're just putting out public service announcements, then I don't think that's what we should be doing. It needs to be, worthwhile.
When we think that the content of these videos, that might be just for open access for anybody, a high school student, that's not the same content, or at least not the complete content for someone who's going to get some CLE specific training later.
Right.
I mean, so those are different videos, maybe a building block,
right.
but it's not going to be the same. I don't think it should be the same.
No, it
It
should.
could be incorporated,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you have to watch this video first, and now we're gonna take this information, we're gonna build on that, and we're gonna give you more. So that's like, to Kelly's point of interchangeable pieces that can be used.
Sure.
I think you could plug that in to
Yeah.
further training.
Almost like a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you watch these videos about the fundamentals, and then you have a webinar, which is a panel discussion of lawyers who are gonna talk about, you know, the different disciplines or legal issue, let's say it's legal focused, you know, motion practice or motions that flow from that, like it, but if the videos were just really like the true, just fundamentals of each scientific discipline, they would be very interchangeable, I think. And again, could be expanded on or, yeah, or.
This is 101, and then, you know, the other stuff is 801. You know, it's a yeah, I think that's a perfect way to describe it, sir, it's a freeway. Yeah. But make it flexible enough that you can build on that, you know, why create something this is for the public, and this is for medical people, and this is for legal people, like, have them all feed off each other, you know, create some efficiencies in terms of content. Rather than build on it as opposed to, you know, having to reinvent the wheel because you happen to be talking to a doctor instead of a, you know, member of the public.
So oh, go ahead.
So as part of the training subcommittee, it would be the state police subject matter experts would be working on the content more, and then the Forensic Science Commission members would be reviewing the content.
I think,
Yeah,
you said whoever else, yeah, the other labs.
If they're willing, we wouldn't,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
I would think we would want ideally to have collaboration between all labs.
Right. But like to get to trace people from a few of the labs to work on the content and have deadlines, and then we'd be reviewing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, at least as far as state police goes, I mean, we have to administratively support the commission, that's our.
Because, I mean, if
Second
you
line.
don't have the medical examiner, if your office wanted to create content also, I mean, so it's collaborative.
Right.
If we need to-
technology.
And maybe the training committee would like to, like, put certain things that they would like to see covered in all the videos. So if the page is like, well, we're gonna do this, we don't want anybody else's help, but you're like, no, Claire, you need to have A, B, C, and D in there.
Right.
So that when we give you that for review, we're hitting the box that you're expecting to see
Right.
in the content. I think that'd be valuable.
Yeah, we use that similar model for the different labs that were represented on the technology subcommittee. They collaborated to present versus just an ISP, for example, ISP driven. That model worked well because everyone had a seat at the table to contribute.
To the extent, and this is more internal housekeeping for ISP, if we need to, do some contractors, you know, we need to bring in retirees, you know, in a 75-hour contract. You know, if we need to augment ISP's subject matter expertise, you know, just, you know, logistically, administratively, then I think that's a budget item that we would certainly look favorably on, the director's office to, you know, if we need people to support that, just to get these building blocks built. And then we'll, you know, then we'll add the legal seasoning over here and we'll add the medical seasoning over here, but I think that's something that, that we would, you know, find the resources for.
So I guess the first ask would be, is the commission on board with pursuing, going down the path of option 3, which would be the building blocks? And without specifics, I would suggest that at this point, maybe the next steps would be logistically. So I would reach out to Professor Leopold, follow up with him, find out what their capabilities are. I'd also like to see what ISP's capabilities are too. Like, I get that I'm loosely, I've been working with them on other things, but, you know, I mean, just to see what our options are as far as a you know, a YouTube channel or whatever, just so that we have all of our options.
We can slap a video on YouTube, like 10 minutes from now, that's what.
But on ISP's YouTube channel, right?
Yeah, we can make a YouTube channel.
Okay.
Yeah, my kid could probably do that if I.
All of them, probably.
So we can do that. In terms of like a professional look and something that stands the test of time and is modular, the innovation center sounds like a, you know, I'm being a little unduly harsh on ISP's own video capabilities. It's okay. Again, it's okay. But I don't think it's, you know, if these are things that, we want to be proud of. I mean, I'm not proud of what ISP is. You know, I'm just saying. Yes. Let me take off the director's hat.
Well, let's see too, what, because this is not an option that was discussed with the professor. So
Yeah.
if.
I suggest, I'm guessing, that Dr. or Professor Leopold will say, we'll point over to them in terms of, a modular thing being built and then the law school taking something.
He may, but he may want to still be, because he was very interested in,
Yeah,
I think the kind of the later projects. So if there's an I guess, if there's an IGA that has to happen, which it wouldn't happen right away, but if we have to start figuring out what would go into it, if you want to pursue this model and have U of I, either in general or the law school as a partner, I would think next steps for me would be to talk to him, see what their capabilities are. And then the training and subcommittee, we could start thinking about realistic, like how much time would go into, once we know like more of the logistic options, like how much time would go into creating 2 videos. I mean, the low hanging fruit, I would think would be the disciplines that are already created for the judges. That we could, at that level, the training and career subcommittee could just continue on with, figuring out the project. Does that sound? Throw ideas at me. Like good next steps. I mean, does everybody like the idea of the fundamental modules, open access, as opposed, I mean, not instead of, but as something to try to tackle now?
To start off.
To start off,
Baseline.
and then, yes, start with that. And presumably we'll have some lessons learned from that in addition to creating building blocks. And then when the time is right, think about other external education initiatives.
Yes.
Loose nods, yes? Okay. I don't think we have to do a formal vote on that. We have a consensus? Okay.
Yeah.
So I will then start doing the work with seeing what options are with U of I and other things. And we will go from there.
And then we'll just communicate about whatever requests you need in terms of supporting that effort administratively with, obviously our existing staff is there to help in any way they can, but if we need to supplement that with, some, contractors just to work on this project, then I think, we can try to, we still got labs to run.
And audits and everybody, and it's the same at all the
So,
levels,
yeah,
Dave
yeah.
and Miracle as well, like, because I think it's very important that, again, that everyone be involved, but that everybody's, time and resources.
Yeah, the commission should provide oversight, approve and say, yes, this is good, we approve of this. I don't expect commission members to like write. Sign personnel and paper contracts, we can provide that sort of thing, so.
Does anyone have anything else they want to say on this very meaty topic? No? Okay, then I saved the easiest for last, figuring we'd be tired after that discussion. If it will, and it turns again, probably. Which is the topic of, all right, it's not gonna pop up, so quarterly meetings. So, which would be a lovely one to have the actual slide with the dates show up on, but I'll just read them aloud. So, the dates that, if we followed the same pattern for 2025 as you have for previous years, and Karen, you wrote them down, so you may have to read them to me. The meetings would be,
For that.
we were gonna change them to Tuesdays was the first suggestion, because that was a request that was put in a while ago, because some people have long weekends on Mondays. There's also state vehicles and things like that, and we just figured Tuesday might be a safer day than Monday. If that's, is Tuesday bad?
It's the old county meetings that our county is on Tuesday,
Okay,
but there's more than just my county group, so whatever day is best.
Are your meetings during the day?
Yeah, like
Oh, wow.
8, 9, 10.
okay.
Wednesday.
Every,
We need to go to Monday. Monday's all right.
County, so it's, when county board is once a month, judicial public finance is every other week, finance is every other week, so sometimes I have to,
Yeah.
but I'm sure it'll work out.
Do you know which?
They publish their schedule ahead of time.
They do.
Why not Wednesday?
Yeah, why don't we just do Wednesday?
Wednesday, okay, so then add a day. Karen, if you don't mind, that's my slides not, well, you know what, here, I'm just gonna unshare. I'll stop sharing and then I can just.
Everybody Wednesday? I mean, there's always gonna be something, but, is that okay?
Okay, so
I'm saying,
the, if we were keeping with the weeks that you were kind of meeting now, that would be like March 19th, June 18th, September 17th, December 17th. I thought that you might want to push it a week earlier in the month for a few reasons. So we'd be looking at Wednesday, March 12th, because by the time you're into the week of March 18th, 19th, you're looking at spring break for colleges and kids and things like that. When you're looking at the week of June 17th, you're into the Juneteenth holiday. There's really no conflict with September, but then by the time you get into December 16th, 17th, we're getting pretty close to holidays for all religions. So my suggestion was to do, I guess now it would be Wednesday, March 12th, Wednesday, June 11th, Wednesday, September 10th, and Wednesday, December 10th.
In terms of I'm sorry.
Yes.
A quick question. Have we thought about the schedule in Springfield for legislative stuff?
So the March meeting would happen early, correct, right, Carrie, early in the legislative session. And then the thought would be then, because if there's no legislation that gets introduced that's related to forensic science, no reason to meet.
Right.
And then we'd have the ability to call special meetings between the March and June meeting as needed. Does that, and those, we could easily do WebEx, obviously, so there's no travel involved. And so the first three would be in person, and then the December one, just again, for travel and weather purposes on WebEx. Does that sound good with everyone's schedules? Okay, so we're Wednesday. Okay, so then I guess a motion, do we need a motion for this? Probably motion to approve the schedule for 2025 as outlined.
is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Sure.
Aye.
For everyone, again, I'll read them one more time. Wednesday, March 12th, Wednesday, June 11th, Wednesday, September 10th, Wednesday, December 10th.
Are we still 10 a.m.?
10 a.m., yes, sorry, 10 a.m. And then in person here, not necessarily, well, I'll work out with Dr. Hughes as far as if we're gonna do this room or if we're possibly gonna, if we can do hybrid in the other room.
Do you prefer the other room? Is that?
We're not considering traveling to other labs at all?
I mean, we could for,
I thought we had talked about that.
Yeah.
but
We met in
So-
the village once.
And it's all Chicago. We did it Chicago before.
Yeah.
Well, then.
The cater?
Yeah, well,
Food?
you did okay.
Decatur.
We haven't done Chicago.
Do you want to do one somewhere else? Anyone offering?
Well, we have our Forensic Sciences Institute down in Metro East. That might be a trip for some people, but that,
I'm fine here.
Are those dates okay still? I see faces.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, fine. No, I'm trying to remember it. Okay, I'm just trying to remember that.
And I'll email the dates out, obviously, after the meeting.
Yeah, all the labs, if anybody wanted to come to any of the IS2 labs. So invitation open, if we wanted to, do a meeting at Springfield, Chicago, back at Decatur, the, Institute. The Institute is always down in Metro East, and you're gonna have to like start out like the day before down there here in Chicago, but,
in terms of the spirit of the Other Leaves Act, it might not be a bad idea to do at least one meeting where the majority of the population in the state is, in the Chicago area. I mean, we don't have any public participants here. I don't know if we're gonna have any public comment, but, you know, it may be a good gesture, to at least make ourselves available and for one in-person meeting somewhere in Chicago. Maybe we could do it at, 555.
well, that would be nice.
That's a hell of a beautiful building.
Yeah, pardon.
I mean, that's 555 West Monroe, the the government headquarters, for the state of Illinois. It's a beautiful place.
They can check. Yes. That's why I look at it.
Yeah, it's a really nice, I mean, I guess we could do, we could maybe do it on LaSalle
We should do it in the.
at,
We could certainly do like outside, we could even do, have people park at the Chicago Land now, and then
Yeah, yeah.
parking places, that's work.
and we could also work it out with PSU to make sure there's parking spaces for people ahead of time. We could.
Or if there's structures, we can just, it's like, put it in like for mileage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we can make emergency parking, that's no problem.
So do you want to, do people want to do one up in Chicago? Either I would submit March or June? June?
June, the weather's beautiful in March. You don't wanna
Oh,
do-
that's true. March could still be iffy.
June would be best.
Okay, so June 11th, we'll say Chicago. Do we want to do location to be determined or?
Yeah, let us explore our options of, I mean, what the facilities are. There's always the lab, but in terms of, public access and in terms of, 555 goes, it's a cool building. It's really neat for people to see, so. TBD.
All right, so then I believe that was our last discussion item. So next would be any housekeeping items?
Real quick, just want to remind people, and I don't know, Amy may have already mentioned this to all the commissioners, don't forget your training. If you haven't done your annual training for this year, think you might be missing some, see Amy, you haven't done anything.
So you have actually records.
If you're ISP, you've got the training.
Yeah, that's what I
Is it yearly? Okay. It's annually, yes. So there's the EEO, and all commissioners have to do, so you have the EEO, you have the ethics,
The open meeting, training, is that annual?
which one?
Open meeting.
Open meetings is not annual, only for each new, commissioner has to do the open meeting. So if you're a new commissioner and you haven't done your open meetings, you need to do that. But the annual training needs to be done annually. So before the end of the year, they'll be opening us to make sure everybody's training is up to date, so.
And I'll look out, because I don't think I've had those lists transferred to me, so I'll work on getting that. And then I can reach out to anyone who's missing, and help facilitate that. Okay, then I think it's public comment now.
So, any members of the public here? Nope, nobody in the room. Any members of the public online wish to make a comment?
You could either speak and or raise your hand. We did have, it looks, yes, we had additional, we have Kevin McMahon, okay? Kevin, go ahead and turn on your mic and make your public comment. Please introduce yourself and where you're from.
Hi, I'm a public defender in DuPage County. I had a question earlier about this symposium that ISP is putting on in October. I was just wondering if it's open to the public. Thank you all.
Yes, the symposium will be open to the public. We're sending out invites. If you, send me your, information, I'll make sure you get an invite. It's also going to be online. My information is robinwoolery@illinois.gov.
Oh, sorry, can you, well, I just sent my email to the chat, but I can, hold on, let me see.
It's in the chat. We'll see. If it's in the chat, we'll get it.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That was all.
Yeah, right, I've got it. All right, thank you. Anyone else present online who, I also will say, it looks like we had an additional person join us, Declan Binninger from the state police.
Nothing additional. Thank you very much. Apologies for joining so late.
All good. Anybody else? Well, thank you all very much. We talked a lot today, and I think it's just an indication that the mission is really gelling and, doing a lot of work. And it wouldn't be easy if we were doing nothing. So
next meeting, yeah.
I appreciate, I think a lot of good good conversation and, you know, making some decisions and heading down the path, the best we can. So good stuff. I really appreciate everybody. Keep on keeping on.
Just for the record, the next meeting is on Monday, December 16th at 10 a.m. via WebEx. That link will be, an agenda will be posted on the commission's website. I think we just need a motion to adjourn.
Yes, so.
That's-
For a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed.
All right,
Stay
thank
here
you
if you
so
want
much.
Too long. Too long.
Yeah, sounds good. I'm.
No, I don't, I'm
Are you
sorry.
going right back over?
No, it's too long.
Nice.